Okay. So hello to anyone listening in. This is the kickoff session for the TEDx Summer Camp for Grownups in summer 2025, kicking off on June 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern. So um, people are still hopping onto the Zoom, and everybody will have this replay within 24 hours. You can keep it for a lifetime. So excited to have everybody join us today. But today, actually, before we jump in, each session is 90 minutes, and then you'll have the replay and you'll get worksheets each week as well of things to fun stuff to do on your own in between classes. But today I wanted to spend a few minutes at the beginning for anyone who can. If you're on video, if you're in the call, even if you're not on video, you can just, unmute yourself at some point. That I wanted to give everyone a chance to kind of go around and introduce yourself. You could say, and I'll type this in the chat just so it's easier. So you're going to introduce yourself, and I will have you share one, your name, two, pronouns, um, three, where you are calling in from, four, your TEDx goals and or intention in joining. And if you want, I would just like to add these kind of icebreaker things. So you're basically just going to tell us who you are, where you're zooming in from. My pronouns are she, her, hers, share your pronouns, and then um, your preferred pronouns. And then if you have like an intention for this summer camp together or a big goal for the TEDx stage, obviously we all, one goal is landing the TEDx talk. But beyond that, if you're like, I want to turn this into paid speaking engagements, I want to write a book. I've had a client who wrote a book after we developed her TEDx talk together. She turned it into a book, right? So like if you have some kind of big dream related to TEDx, I would love for you to share it. And then optionally, this is all in the chat. I invite people just to share something fun about yourself that's like not on your resume. Like I just got back from leading a retreat in Bali and I got a tattoo of the goddess Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom and knowledge, on my arm. So when I met, because a shaman told me I embody her. So when I meditate, I can look at the goddess Saraswati. So that's like an unusual thing about me that's not on my resume, right? But it could be anything. I just like to everybody to start to get to know each other a little bit. That's optional. Don't feel pressure. I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But does anybody want to start and just tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself?
I don't mind starting.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie.
Okay, so my name is Julie Caffley. My pronouns are she, her, elle in French. Um, I'm calling in from, so I live in Chelsea, Quebec, which is a beautiful community just outside of Ottawa, which is Canada's capital. And we live really close to downtown, but actually in the middle of the woods and forest, and it's beautiful. Near ski
Amazing.
hills in the winter. Um, yeah, and TEDx goals, I have a big keynote to give this fall. So I was kind of thinking of this as kind of time that I would dedicate to it and dedicate to, I find in general with speaking engagements, we just don't dedicate the time. So I looked at being, the idea of being committed to this time as a gift to myself in terms of thinking about it and spending the time to put this work together. And something fun about me is I love to do headstands.
Oh, I love that.
I love
Amazing.
to do that.
Oh my God, that's so fun. And yes, awesome. I love it that this is like an accountability structure for you too,
Yeah.
because I work the same way. I like when I have a really big goal and I have to break it into small chunks, it helps me tremendously to have like some kind of accountability system or partners or people in place just so I know I'm like, you know, I think as women in our society, I'm still working on like, if I have an appointment with somebody else, I religiously keep that appointment. If I have an appointment with myself, I break it sometimes, right? So because women are asked to care for like all of society. So, I applaud you in building in this structure and accountability. And you're going to be learning a ton about frameworks for like really compelling talks that can help you on any stage. So I think it's, yeah, hopefully this will be just what you need. So I'm so excited. Yay. Mm. Who else would like to go next? So again, it's who you are, where you're calling in from, your pronouns, any big goals that you have kind of related to the TEDx stage that like brought you to wanting to do this talk, and then something fun about you if you feel inspired to share.
I think uh,
Awesome.
Um, and I'm going to also, once I'm done introducing myself, I'm going to transfer myself from my phone onto my computer.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
I'll
Awesome.
pop out
Okay.
and right back.
Sure.
But I'm Erin, and super thrilled to be here and excited for the time that we'll have together this summer. I am my pronouns are she, her. I'm calling in from Northern Michigan. I'm in Traverse City, Michigan, right up along the lake and in just a very idyllic setting up here. Um, my goals are to build my capacity to speak on stages like TED and have the ability to communicate my ideas with a bit more story, a bit more narrative. My background is in academia, so I've done lots of speaking in an academic capacity, which is very different. And then after academia, I was in industry and have done lots of industry speaking. But even with my industry speaking experience, I think I have lots of room to still grow. And so would really like to hone my skills in general. I'm a co-founder of a research and advisory firm. And so part of this is also supporting my business to be able to do top of funnel marketing and, show up powerfully in rooms with other executives and leaders, and also writing a book. And so these things would be intersecting. Something fun about me, what's fun about me? I have two kids who are 6 and 8, and a husband, and we have a Sprinter van, and we like to go camping in our Sprinter van. Yeah, for fun. So
I
that's
love
me.
that. I love that. I love it that you live up by the lake too. And I don't know that part of Michigan well, but like, when I come up that way, I will let you know because I
Oh,
was born in Chicago, Illinois. I'm a Midwesterner by birth. And then I grew up in Springfield, Massachusetts, and now I live in New York. But I don't know the lakes region of Michigan very well, but I know it's beautiful. So that's awesome. And I think a camper van is super fun. And I think you're in the right place for all of those goals where like, I mean, some of you connected to me through Mary Hool, and she's going to be a guest speaker for our TEDx camp. And I may bring in another guest speaker as well towards the end to focus specifically on story building, because
yeah,
that is such a huge component for the TEDx stage, specifically when you're shaping your keynote. Like you said, it's very different from academia. TEDx, you're going to want to typically limit the amount of statistics you load your talk with to just a few very salient statistics that are from peer-reviewed studies from reputable sources that TEDx can fact check easily. But a lot of TEDx stories and the most compelling viral TEDx talks are built around story, right? So we'll
hmm
be doing a lot around that, and you will learn a framework and an outline structure that can be really helpful both for TEDx but for other stages as well. So yeah, so I'm excited to kind of support you in all of that, and welcome. You're
Thank you. Thank
welcome.
you.
Yeah. Deb, did you
I'll
want to go?
go, Lisa.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Sure. Okay. All right. So my name is Deb Vincent. I live in upstate New York. I personally live in Troy, but my world is all around the capital region. Let's see. So hang on, that was the first. And what is my big TEDx goal? So I've been an ally to the LGBTQ community since for years, but particularly since my youngest came out 14 years ago when they were 11. And I am now the president of the board of the Capital Region Pride Center, which is the oldest continuously running Pride Center in the nation. And there was some question, I had a question about whether I was right for it, right? I'm not a member of the queer community, I'm an ally. And interestingly, no one in the queer community has an issue with that. They're delighted to have someone take up the mantle. They're tired. They're delighted to have someone take up the mantle. The people who thought, oh God, people are going to be upset for you doing this are allies, right? So there's a piece about the conversation. I believe my calling in the world is to change that 80% of the world who, listen, if you can't be an ally, at least don't be an ass. like that movement. And it's, yes, in my case, towards the queer community, but that's kind of a life goal to have people shift, right? Like if you can't be an ally, you don't have to like everybody. You don't have to work for everybody, but don't be a jerk. Yeah. So that is my piece. And then the story about, making mistakes along the way and the healing I'd still like to have happen with my youngest. And that it's a bumpy road. So that piece about being that national speaker on that level to try to move the needle in a time when we really need to be doing that. Um, for me personally, hopefully it'll work towards a larger job for me, but it certainly is about playing big into the person I was born to be instead of small and surviving. So that's that. Fun fact about me, I am literally sitting in my car with a kayak strapped to the roof that always stays on the roof of my car once the ice goes out of the rivers and the streams, and waiting to meet a friend to kayak for the afternoon, because that is where I go to let it all flow.
I love that. That's so beautiful. You know what, Deb, too, like, I didn't realize that the Pride Center in Albany was the longest running one in the nation. That's amazing.
It is. It is amazing.
That's amazing.
It's
Yeah,
amazing. All that, being able to talk on this stage also will help me. Like we have to shift our board. We have some
yeah.
things we have to shift our own local community and all of those ways of speaking to make it, there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
And I believe that I'm in this place for a reason, and I want to maximize my ability to get that work done.
I love that so much. I love that so much. And you know what, too, when you said if you can't be an ally, at least don't be an ass. Like, honestly, I think that's an amazing book title and like potentially a
The
variation of
t-shirt. We have the t-shirt already.
you do amazing. And like potentially
Yeah.
like that tweaked a little bit can be a TEDx title. Your TEDx talk title has to be short enough that it works well for SEO and the algorithms. If it's too many words, the SEO capacity is diminished. We'll talk about that later, but like that conceptually is it's such a good it's such a good concept. So I'm so excited to work on it with you. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really excited too.
And Deb also, by the way, I'll email everybody the info about this later in case anybody else wants to join us. She is participating in like a small retreat I'm hosting. I mean small, like 12 to 15 women, like smallish, in peak fall foliage season in Vermont on a lake, at a place that's like a lake, has a lake, it's near a waterfall. There are kayaks and a hot tub, and it's literally just called the Cozy Queens Reading Retreat. And it's just like me and a bunch of women in our PJs bringing a pile of books and like having food delivered and getting wine and going in the hot tub and kayaking. So if anybody else wants to come to the Cozy Queens Reading Retreat, it's very affordable, and it's I'll share that email later, but yeah, I'm super excited about that, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
I
Me
found
too.
this.
It'll be a weekend away. Will be
Yes.
fabulous.
Yeah, I found this stunning Victorian mansion on a lake in Vermont, and I like booked it for peak fall foliage season, and I was like, I just want to hang out in my PJs with other cool women and read books and like drink wine and go in the hot tub. So that's like the whole goal. That's it. That's the purpose of the retreat. Anyways, so Shauna's here now too. Are you able to at least unmute yourself to say hi?
Hi, sorry about that. So I'm normally based in the Washington, D.C. area in Arlington, Virginia. But I am currently in San Francisco and I just got here and have to get myself together to
Yeah, no problem.
conference, but I'm excited to get this started. So
Yay.
um, the what were the introduction instructions?
Yes. So it was just where you're zooming in from, you told us, pronouns. And then there were two questions. One is, do you have any
Oh,
goals related to the TEDx stage? So obviously everybody wants to speak on the TEDx stage or you wouldn't be here. But beyond that, Do you like, we have people who, I have clients who've turned their TEDx talk into a book. I have clients who landed multiple stages. I have clients, and for myself, TEDx ended up turning into 5-figure speaking engagements, representation by a speakers bureau. Like it totally changed my life. So like, do you have any specific goals related to TEDx? Like that when you get done with this summer camp together and you go out there and you rock the TEDx stage, like kind of where you want to go from there. And then the other one was just optional, anything fun about yourself that we wouldn't know from your resume, like I shared my tattoo I just got while I was leading a retreat in Bali of Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom and knowledge. If you can kind of see it, because I
Yeah.
had a shaman tell me I embody her energy. So like, I'm the goddess Saraswati apparently. So any just like random thing for you want to share that's fun about you, so we can all get to know each other a little bit.
Well, I'm kind of bummed that I'm not a goddess of any kind. It's like sort of a high bar to follow.
You obviously are, because I only attract goddesses into my circle. So you just need to find out your goddess name. That's all. Mhm.
Yeah, maybe that's my next step. So yeah, let me see. So goals. Yeah, I mean, I think TEDx would be great, but actually the main motivator for me was really just more generally speaking. I
Got
do a
it.
lot of speaking, but I feel like I uh hack it and could professionalize a lot better. And so when this came up with Mary, I was like, well, this will kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, with like learning more about the TEDx process. Yes, Aaron and I are business married. So
Amazing.
there's that.
Amazing. Amazing.
But yeah, so I think for me it's really just like getting clear on like what I like if I were to do a TED talk, like what would I want to talk about? And then as I said, I do a lot of public speaking, but I feel like there's still this like what do I want the repeatable talks to be? Usually I never do the same talk twice, which has a lot of downsides. And so that's part of it. And then Aaron and I are writing a book together. There's probably, I've written a couple books. There's probably other books in the future, but it's like that may or may not be associated with kind of what emerges from here. But for me, it's mostly about like crystallizing what do I really want the big ideas to be,
Love
and
that.
like then structuring them and progressing on how to deliver them.
Awesome. Amazing. Amazing. And anything else fun you want to share with us about you? You obviously are very accomplished in doing cool things, but just any random detail of your life.
Um, I don't know. I feel like I should almost make this an Aaron, what is interesting about me? There's
Um, well, Shauna is a kettlebell queen,
Oh, I love
I would
that.
say.
I love
And
that.
she does lots of different kinds of torturous physical activities to herself,
and sometimes to you.
sometimes to others.
That's right.
It's funny. I at one point I was going to sign up for some kind of kettlebell online training thing. If you do that as a coach at all, send me your links, because I've got to get back into weight training. So,
Well, I appreciate that. I can highly recommend my trainer in my gym who do offer virtual stuff. So that's
oh, amazing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
send that my way.
I have dragged Aaron to that before, and also my children and most of my friends and family members. So
I love it. Well, kettlebells are great too, because you can like travel with them and they're portable and you don't have to bring like a whole weight rack with you.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Yep.
awesome.
I
Well,
gotta do it.
nice to meet you all virtually and to meet the work wives, and so all these authors and accomplished people amongst us. So I'm excited to help all of you achieve your goals, and I do think this camp and TEDx are just like such a great vehicle for everything everyone was talking about, because you really are polishing and refining some big world changing ideas. I will give you an outline structure partway through the course that the most viral TEDx talks use. It's the structure that Simon Sinek used. It's the structure that Brene Brown used, that Sir Ken Robinson, like a lot of the most viral talks. So you will have that same like scaffolding for your talk, which, like I said, doesn't have to be for the TEDx stage. You can use it for other keynotes and frameworks. And you know, part of what got me into the TEDx coaching is that I have given two TEDx talks. My second one's in the top 2% of all TEDx talks globally, and still gets about 10 to 12,000 more views a month. So I think I'm at something like 375,000 plus views, but like you literally only have to crack 10,000 views to be in the top 2% globally. So like that's going to be a goal for all of you because it's the average TEDx talk gets like 411 views. People give these amazing talks and then they like post it once and forget about it. And so like you'll have a whole PR campaign ready to go because I'll give that to you. I'll give you like 20 steps you can take to like promote your talk after it goes live, because you want to leverage this talk because unlike other stages, I speak for to corporations, I speak at conferences, I speak on a lot of stages, and I've been speaking on stages since 2009. But the majority of the stages I have spoken on have not given me high quality video afterwards and do not allow me to share that talk publicly with others, right? So a lot of the talks I've given stayed on that stage. So I impacted a room of people and then I left, right? The beautiful thing about TEDx and the reason that I encourage people to do it, even if you're a professional speaker and you're doing tons of other stages, is this is IP that is yours forever. You can share the link forever with the rest of the world. It really is a feather in your cap because like I'm going to go through some slides in a few minutes, but about all of this, but like, only this is the reason I coach. Only 1 to 5% of TEDx applications to events are accepted, meaning more than hello, more than 95% of TEDx applications are rejected. It's currently harder to land a TEDx talk than it is to get into Harvard, right? So I have done both. I've given two TEDx talks. I graduated from grad school at Harvard. I like know a little bit about how to beat the odds, so that's why I do this. And I had originally hired a TEDx coach for my second TEDx talk just to really polish it and give a better talk. And my coach, he's amazing at the coaching he does. His talk went super viral with like more than 3 million views. It's what he does full time. He now takes his talk topic and like just repeats it with variations around the world and has like a high six-figure business. And there was a lot that was great. But my TEDx coach, and the reason I don't give his name or recommend him to people is because unfortunately, he also was kind of like emotionally toxic. Like he did and said things that made me like end up crying in the fetal position on the floor, like feeling like my life was over when I was like, with aspects of my TEDx talk. I mean, no. So like I was like, I cannot recommend somebody to other women who will make them feel emotionally unsafe. And say things that are very damaging to them. So I researched who else was out there coaching, and there aren't a lot of women TEDx coaches. And my niche specifically is that I help brilliant women thought leaders, land and rock TEDx and similar stages. But for me, it's also about, you know, I've been a social justice activist my whole life. I worked for Kamala Harris. I worked for Hillary Clinton. I've worked for every Democratic presidential candidate since 2008 when I worked for Barack Obama in Virginia. And like, I want to help make it a better world. So I'm specifically excited whenever I can help women thought leaders diversify the TEDx stage because there's still a lot more men speakers than women. It's still a pretty white stage. Like I like to bring diversity where I can and more members of the LGBTQIA community. But I also like, it's really in alignment for me to help brilliant women thought leaders land more stages, write more books, do all the things because, we currently have toxic criminals in the White House destroying the United States. So I apologize to our Canadian neighbors who are like living above a meth lab right now. We're very sorry. We did not vote for this. So, and by now we know that they cheated. So actually we really didn't vote for this. But anyways, all of that aside, I want to Today, for our sort of kickoff, we have 8 different sessions. I'm actually gonna host a session on July 2nd. It's July 4th is a holiday in the US. So not everybody in the US will necessarily come because it's often a holiday week for people, but I'm going to host a session on the July 2nd as well, that's just for like Q&A, or you can come do kind of a work session with me if you want to. So you can just mark your calendar for the same time, 4 p.m. Eastern, for 8 more sessions after this. I sent everybody the calendar invite as well. And we will today, and then you'll get the replay within 24 hours, as well as a worksheet of some fun stuff you can do between now and the next class. But today I really wanted to start with kind of the foundations of everything. So I'm going to walk through a little bit more in a presentation about, exactly what TEDx is, what makes TEDx different from any other stage, what helps you deliver a compelling TEDx talk, what helps you land a TEDx stage, just some of the kind of the foundational pieces. So today we'll start with kind of building the foundations, and by next week we're going to jump right into refining your big idea worth spreading. So like we will, by next week be working on like what is the idea that you would want to first share from this stage. But today we're going to kind of build the foundations for everything. So this is a 90-minute session. If you have to leave early, no big deal. Like I know, everybody's got busy schedules. You will get a replay. So and I will, while I'm going through the PowerPoint, I'm gonna just ask everybody to either drop questions in the chat or hold them for later, just so I can like get through some of the slides. And then there'll be time at the end as well to just ask questions, or you can kind of drop stuff in the chat as you go. Just if I miss it while I'm presenting, you can bring the question up again later. Um, but any questions before I kind of jump in on the foundational stuff, or if anybody needs like a quick bathroom break or coffee or anything, you can run and do it. I can give it a few minutes, but just let me know. Do you have any questions before I jump in?
Oh, this all sounds good, and yeah, excited to keep learning.
Yay, yay. Yes. No, I'm so excited to share. I gave my first TEDx talk in 2019. I've become such a TEDx nerd. I've read so many books about it. I've watched hundreds of talks. I've read so many essays about it. So like you kind of get like the distillation of my like 6 years of being a super TEDx nerd. So, and like I said, I literally just had a shaman tell me I'm the goddess of wisdom and knowledge. So like apparently I'm supposed to impart my knowledge. So let's. Hmm. So
We'll send you kettlebell recommendations if you send us shamans.
Oh, 100%. I'm leading a retreat again in Bali next May, an Eat, Pray, Love retreat. So I'll send everybody the details on that. But I just led a sold out retreat in Bali, and it was like mind blowing. I mean, not because I'm the retreat leader, like I'm a good retreat leader, but because like Bali is mind blowing, and the shamans and the priestesses and the beauty and the tropical island, it was like unbelievable. So absolutely, I will send you recommendations of shamans and priestesses. So, but I'm going to go ahead, if everybody else is good, and just jump in on the slides so we can cover some territory today. Let me make sure that I have the correct screen open on Zoom before I do that. Hold on 2 seconds here. Okay. So let me just see. I should have the PowerPoint open. PowerPoint. And okay. Let me just make sure it's set to go to slideshow mode. Okay. Go back to Zoom. All right, I'm going to share my screen, and everybody can see the screen okay? Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Okay. And while I'm running the slides, I'm actually just temporarily gonna like take our beautiful faces off the screen just so that because it covers up part of the slides. But like I said, if you drop questions in the chat, if I miss it while I'm going through the slides, I promise you I'll get to it by the end. So don't stress about it. But if I see a question come up in the chat, I'll try also to take care of it. So Obviously, the goal of our time together at our summer camp is to get you on this iconic stage. But as everybody talked about, you can also use what you learn here in your own speaking engagements, current and future, in developing a book and just sort of creating compelling content, because there's a lot of principles behind the way to develop a really viral and compelling TEDx talk that can be useful in a lot of those contexts. So, I wanted to go through a little bit about kind of overall TEDx. So not everybody knows this distinction. I didn't really understand it until I started on this journey. So there is the main TED stage. So a couple times a year, the main TED organization hosts a conference, and they have kind of a main stage. That particular stage, is not where I recommend people start to try to apply, because I mean, this statistic is not even correct that I gave here. I have to change that because there are less than 100 spots. So it's basically for the main TED stage, about 100,000 people apply, and maybe they have 20 speakers. So that one is not where you start, because that's where they're inviting famous thought leaders who already have 20 books, to come speak on the stage. But what I help people with, and what I have done myself, is there are thousands of independently organized TEDx events around the globe. Now, when I say independently organized TEDx events, these TEDx events, the organizers have to apply for a license. They have to follow the TEDx guidelines. They have to make sure everyone's talks are 18 minutes or less if they're going to go up on the TEDx main website and on their YouTube channel. And they have to follow certain TEDx criteria. But, in cities around the world, there are organizers who work with the TED organization to organize these independently organized TEDx events. Those are the stages that we're aiming for. They still reject more than 95% of applications, but it's a little bit better than like rejecting 99.999%. So like we're going to try to up your odds. So this is this was me at my 10th anniversary Harvard reunion. So I earned my master's in public administration at Harvard in 2005. Just had my 20-year reunion actually. But so some static statistics: landing a TEDx talk is even more competitive actually at this point than getting into Harvard, because only about 1 to 5% of people are accepted. So I've worked with dozens of clients at this point who I've helped land TEDx stages. And some of the events they applied to said they had 500 applications, and maybe they're looking for 5 speakers or 10 speakers, right? So you can do the math. But my goal is to help you create a TEDx application that'll automatically get you into the top 10% of all applications, because as with anything, if you're applying for a job, if you're applying for a TEDx stage, if you're applying to speak at a conference, there's always going to be probably 50% of the people who just can't follow instructions, who literally just will not do what the application asks for. So like they'll just get rejected automatically, right? And there's going to be maybe another 10 to 20% who just are not going to fit in with the theme of the event, or they're just not going to be the right speaker for that stage. Maybe that's more like 10% to 30%, whatever, right? So we want to get you definitely right out of the gate into that top 10 to 20% of applications, so that you're right at the top of the pile that the organizers are looking at. And I can help you do that because I know the criteria they're looking for. And by now I've like helped dozens of people apply, helped dozens of people land the stage, and landed a few stages myself. So there are, this is just a statistic from Forbes magazine where, this was back in 2022 that the average TEDx event was getting 1 to 300 applications, often for like 5 to 6 speaker slots. Like I said, I've heard of events that have gotten 500 plus applications. So it's very, very, very competitive. And I don't know if people always understand just how competitive it is. So I want to help increase your odds of getting on that stage. We're going to talk about the formula for a winning TEDx talk. We're going to talk about how that can apply to any speech that you give, any book that you write, how you can leverage these principles to have more compelling content in general. And we're going to work through your idea we're spreading. What's your big idea you want to share with the world right now? I've given 2 successful TEDx talks. A number of my clients also landed multiple stages. And like, you definitely can give more than one, but we want to at least have you have that one big idea on the stage. In terms of why I do this work, there's only one of you in all of human history. Even if other people do work that is in a similar field, you have your own unique angle, your own unique story, your own unique voice. We also need more diverse representation on TEDx stages. So when I did some research a few years ago, I found out that between 2007 to 2016, when they did an analysis of all the TEDx talks during that time period, more than two-thirds of the speakers were men, and about 81% were white. And so it's really important to me. Those statistics are shifting. This chart shows that over time, now there are actually more women TEDx speakers than men, or at least there were in 2022. But it's still predominantly white. It's still a stage that I think also needs more representation from the LGBTQIA community, differently abled people. So, and honestly, like as white women, I feel like we are in a position to use our privilege to help others. So it's often a stage, and like Deb Vincent was talking about as an LGBTQIA ally, that she wants to help others be better allies. Like there are a lot of ways we can use this stage to help a lot of other people and use our privilege for good. So my TEDx journey, this was like pre-COVID lockdowns, 2019. So I'm like super thin back then. Good Lord. I was a professional dancer for years, um and before COVID lockdowns, before I met my sweetheart and like ate too much pasta and wine for 2 years, um, I was probably 30 pounds skinnier. So here's me in front of my first TEDx stage sign. This was at TEDx Albany in 2019. My talk was how women will save the world. Or no, I think it was why women will save the world, but which we will, obviously. This was my second TEDx talk, September 2022. TEDx Oneonta on how to cultivate calm in the midst of chaos. So I'm also a meditation and mindfulness teacher and Martha Beck certified life coach. So I've been studying yoga and meditation, mindfulness, Buddhism since 2020, no, for 20 years, since 2005, to heal myself from PTSD. So this talk kind of talked about some of the tips and simple tools that I recommend to people when things are really chaotic, to be able to just bring some more peace and mindfulness into your life. And I gave this talk after COVID lockdowns. So it was after a time when the whole world was kind of topsy-turvy. So these were some of the other TEDx speakers I shared the stage with at that event. This was the theme, transformations. I actually, clearly, I have not edited this slide. Since my last class, because my talk is now at 375,000 plus views. But as I mentioned earlier, you only need to hit more than 10,000 views in order to be in the top 2% of all TEDx talks globally, which is like, you can definitely hit that mark. So hold on 2 seconds. I want to just let me just quickly check and see if anybody, I've got us kind of up in the corner here. If anybody dropped any questions into the chat. Why can I not find the chat? Hold on 1 second. I don't see any right now. So hopefully, anyways, if you have questions, I will catch them later. So, why give a TEDx talk? Obviously you all have the interest and you all have other reasons that learning about this process is helpful. But for some of the primary reasons people come to me and that people do these talks, increase your visibility and your platform. So, with 375,000 plus views, this is definitely the most viral any of my content has gone. I do have, I've gotten 10,000 plus views on my Instagram reels in the past month while I was leading a retreat in Bali, because Bali's beautiful and everybody's been watching my reels. But this is just like, I get 10 to 12,000 additional views per month to my TEDx talk. So that consistently I'm getting that many views on this one talk, and getting like every month I go in and I have dozens of new comments of people whose lives have been impacted by the talk. And I can go in and reply to people, and like it's, landing a TEDx stage. After my first TEDx talk, it was the first time ever that I had corporations and organizations reach out directly to me. I didn't have to go to them to ask to hire me to speak. So it was the first time I got paid speaking gigs without me having to do the work, right? They came to me. After my second TEDx talk, I got signed by an international speakers bureau, Unique Speaker Bureau International. They represent Trevor Noah. They represent some other big names and celebrities, but the organization started out of South Africa and they were expanding into building out more United States speakers. So I got added to their roster. So, but I was immediately out of the gate after my second TEDx talk. They said, "What's your speaker fee?" At the time, this is a couple years ago, I said 10,000. They're like, "Great, no problem." Right. So then immediately, like within 2 months, I got hired to do a couple keynote talks on International Women's Day in Johannesburg, South Africa. Like, this year I'm bumping up my speaker fee to like 12 to 15,000 per talk, because the average budgeted amount for a keynote speaker, these are for keynotes. These are, if I do a workforce training online, it's going to be more like the 5 to 10K range. But like a keynote, the average budgeted amount by a corporation or organization for a keynote now is above 17,000. So I'm just still catching up my rates to meet the average. But because for me, it's like I have to step into the value step by step and feel like I can absolutely deliver that value. But now my keynotes are more in the 12 to 15,000 range for a half an hour, 45 minutes. So, I mean, of course, I spend a lot of time prepping for those talks, and it's like a lifetime of my work that goes into those talks. But like, I really believe that TEDx can be leveraged to help create a lucrative speaking career, for anyone, and really build your credibility as a thought leader as well. It just kind of is something that's recognized. If you've given a TEDx talk or multiple TEDx talks, it lends more credibility to you as a thought leader, because it's a very hard stage to land, frankly. So, and then amplifying your voice and your message. The TEDx website, this number needs to be updated as well. I think their current subscribers is more like 42 million. So the TED organization has 42 million subscribers to their YouTube channel. So they don't send every TEDx video that goes live to all of their subscribers, but they do multiple times a month decide to like share a few TEDx talks that they have personally viewed with their entire audience. Okay. So, like, if your TEDx talk gets selected to be shared with their 42 million viewers, guess what? Like, you will have a viral TEDx talk, right? So, I can't guarantee you that, but that's always a possibility. So, a TEDx talk can also help you land more lucrative speaking gigs and get higher fees. It can help you land an agent or a book deal if this is something that really helps you build your platform. You get to refine your ideas and share your expertise. And I really love it that I feel like TEDx is a way to change the world in 18 minutes or less with a single simple idea, right? So to me, that's really a beautiful thing. It doesn't have to be complicated to make the world a better place. Like, we can all do it in our own individual ways, but like, this is a really powerful way. So some of this I've talked about already, but that I'm represented by an international speakers bureau. My speakers fee is now in the 12 to $15,000 range for live keynotes. For like corporate gigs, workforce trainings, it's sometimes less than that if it's a virtual thing, but that's now my range. And pretty much my baseline is like bottom line 5,000 plus for me to show up. I did land these two talks in South Africa for International Women's Day right after joining the Speakers Bureau that were really life-changing, and I've spoken on a lot of stages since then. My second talk has more than 375,000 views. This, I'm just going to quickly give you a few recommended talks to check out that you may not have seen before, that are not on sort of everybody seems to know the Brene Brown one, the Simon Sinek one, right? So this is a friend of mine from my undergraduate years at Princeton University. So BJ Miller, we were freshmen at the same time at Princeton. And during our freshman year, we were not friends yet. We became friends after college. But during our freshman year, BJ was out with friends one night drinking, got drunk, ended up climbing on top of, there was a little small train in Princeton University that connected to the main Amtrak train in Princeton, the town. And it was called the Dinky. It was like this little train that connected us to the Amtrak station. And BJ at the time was drunk with his friends at Princeton, climbed up on top of the train and grabbed a 20,000 volt live wire without realizing what he was doing, of course. So he's a triple amputee. So he had to have both legs amputated from about the knee down. I think one is a little bit higher than the other. And then he had to have one arm partially amputated. And so while we were still in college together, he was kind of understandably struggling and bitter about all of this and sued the university and sued the train and, a bunch of stuff. But when he graduated from Princeton, he ended up dedicating his life to medicine. He became a healer, he's a doctor. And then he went to work for the Zen Hospice in San Francisco because he really wanted to, he had this like near death experience and he wanted to really help others navigate the end of life. And his talk is really powerful. And like I said, it's just one that I recommend checking out. If you're interested to in developing more story, more narrative, like using that more in your speeches, he tells some really powerful stories. So we check out BJ's talk. Amanda Palmer, she is divorced from Neil Gaiman, who kind of ended up being a super jerk. But Amanda was roommates with one of my best friends at Harvard. She wasn't at Harvard at the time, but they just happened to be roommates when we were in school together. So I started to learn about Amanda Palmer, but she's an artist, performance artist, and musician. Her TEDx talk is really fascinating because she crowdsourced it. So she went to her fans when she was developing the talk. She was invited to speak on the main TED stage. And she went to her fans and said, I'm writing a TED talk and I need your help. And she kind of like ran the material by them and they gave her suggestions and feedback. And so there's like a performance element built into it. It's really a fascinating talk. It's a shorter talk. It's 13 minutes. The maximum is 18 minutes in length, but I just thought it was a good one to check out. This one, How Every Child Can Thrive by Five, is one of my favorite TED Talks. This is the main TED stage. Molly Wright, when she gave this talk, I mean, you can see her in her overalls. Maybe she was like 8 years old, very young. And the talk has millions of views. But what this illustrates, this is a 7.5 minute talk given by like a 7 or 8 year old that is completely world changing, right? I mean, she gives you like three key things that you can do to help your children thrive by the age of 5. And she has like a neighbor's child who's featured in the video who like she incorporates into it. But it was just a really powerful reminder to me that, if you think you're not ready or not qualified enough or not good enough in some way to do TEDx, because, we women devalue ourselves all the time, so we're taught to do so by society. This is an example of literally a 7 or 8 year old who gave this completely world-changing talk that's very simple and very beautiful. So it's just a reminder, like anybody can do this. So the TED organization, this is just kind of foundational stuff, was founded in 1984 as a nonprofit, bringing together experts from the fields of technology, entertainment, and design. It has since become one of the biggest global platforms, right? To be able to share an idea worth spreading. And there are experts in every field from around the world who have given talks on this stage. So there are two main types of talks. We kind of talked about that previously. There's the main stage conference, which happens just a few times a year. More typically, they're inviting people to speak there. So it's like after you have 10 best-selling books, maybe they'll invite you to speak. You can technically apply, but they get like 100,000 applications a year. So the TEDx talk are all of these independently organized conferences built around TED principles, and that's where we are focused. So the average length of a TEDx talk. So the a TEDx talk is required to be 18 minutes or less. You don't want to mess with that. I heard a story about a man who's a professional speaker, thought he was the bomb diggity and like didn't prepare or rehearse for TEDx. He just thought, I'll get on the stage and I'll just talk 'cause I'm so good at this. So his talk ran like 30 minutes and TEDx never put his talk on the website, right? Because he didn't follow the guidelines. They're very simple rules. Like your talk has to be 18 minutes or less. So you really want to stick to that or they can just reject your video, right? That's not something you want to mess with. However, the viral TEDx talks that you've seen out there in the world are anywhere between about 10 to 18 minutes. There are sometimes shorter talks than that, but typically the ones that go most viral are in that 10 to 18 minute range. So we can sort of like work anywhere within that range. So it's a great way to change the world in about 15 minutes, right? So in terms of what that looks like, so if you want to give a talk that's on the 15 to 16 minute side, a person on average speaks about 125 to 100 words per minute. I am well aware that I speak quickly. I probably speak more like 160 words a minute typically. but you have 18 minutes maximum, right? So I tend to have my clients aim for about 15 minutes maximum. You have to keep in mind when you're on that stage, it's very normal to be nervous. It's kind of an iconic stage. I was nervous. I've given hundreds of keynote talks since 2009. The only stage I've really ever been nervous on is TEDx, to be honest. I'm not nervous when I give other TEDx talks, but TEDx has a certain weight to it, and it's recorded forever. So like I was nervous. Um, but I also rehearsed hundreds of times. So you just really learn your talk well. But to be on the safe side, I always recommend that people aim for more like 15 or 16 minutes because when you're nervous, and this happened to me during my first talk, there may be a moment, this is totally normal, when like you get like a little bit of brain freeze. Like I had a moment in my first talk where I couldn't remember the next line, right? I couldn't remember what came next. I'd rehearsed it like 250 times and I still was like standing there on the stage like what comes next. So I needed like a minute, not a minute, maybe I needed maybe 25 seconds to kind of gather myself. I needed a few seconds. And maybe it was 15 seconds. It always feels like 10 hours, but it took me a few seconds to just kind of gather myself so I could jump back into the talk. But like it happened to come at a really poignant moment in the talk when I had just shared something impactful. So I just kind of stayed in silence for an extra couple seconds and then I resumed my talk. So it's all you want to give yourself spaciousness. So you don't want to be right at the 18-minute limit. So that's why I recommend you aim for more like 15 to 16 minutes. So TEDx is a big commitment of time. Um, I rehearsed my first TEDx talk 258 times. I rehearsed my second TEDx talk 275 times. We're talking full rehearsal, reading the whole talk, not just like scanning it with my eyeballs. But what you have to keep in mind is I had read somewhere that Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor rehearsed her TED Talk 200 times. I think now it's been viewed more like 30 million times. Oprah invited her to be a guest on her show, right? Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, if you haven't seen her TEDx talk, she wrote the book, A Stroke of Insight. She's a neuroscientist who had a stroke and then talked about it on stage, what it was like to watch her own brain having a stroke. Like she knew what was happening. But it was like while she was like waiting for the ambulance to arrive, she was watching herself have a stroke. And she talks about how it transformed her life for the better, honestly. So anyways, I decided I was gonna like overachiever that I am, rehearse even more times than Dr. Jill. So, but when you break it down, because typically TEDx stages are looking for speakers 3 to 6 months out. So, like, you could have the best idea in the world, but you're not going to be speaking on a stage in July. I don't care how smart and great you are, because TEDx is looking for speakers 3 to 6 months in advance, right? It takes time to organize these things. Some stages are looking for speakers 9 to 12 months in advance, but that's more rare. But typically, when you're applying to a stage, if you're applying to a stage because you want to land a talk in 2025, you would probably now in June be applying for stages where the talk is happening in September, October, November, or December, right? So you're going to have time. Once you land the stage, you'll probably have at least 3 months before you actually give your talk. So you figure, I was rehearsing my second talk, I rehearsed it 275 times. That sounds like a lot, right? But that was basically, I put myself on a schedule 5 times a day, 5 days a week. I rehearsed for 11 weeks. And I was rehearsing a 15-minute talk that's 75 minutes a day. So that's an hour and 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 11 weeks. I took weekends off. But like, for me personally, I was spending that much time doom scrolling on social media, right? Like I'll be transparent. I'm far from perfect, right? I was like reading all the horror show Donald Trump news for at least an hour a day, right? So like for me, like, I was able to just clear some time in my schedule and commit to it. That an hour and 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week, I rehearsed. And that meant that I knew my talk inside and out. But just the point is, if you have a 10 or 15-minute talk, if your talk is 10 to 12 minutes, you're just committing 1 hour a day, 5 days a week for 11 weeks. And you just have to be willing. If you want to really nail this talk in this stage, it's not like other keynotes. You can't look at your notes. You don't have a teleprompter. You don't have a podium. It's just you on the red dot. and a camera, right? You have nothing. You have nothing to cue you. If you have slides, maximum, they typically want you to only have 6 to 12 slides. They don't want you to have very much text on those slides. If you have slides, they probably have an image on them, right? Or like maybe a little bit of text. So it's not like I give a lot of keynotes and workforce trainings where I can just give the talk from my slides because my slides, even me sharing this with you today, my talk, my presentation to you today, there's a lot of text. So I don't need to have this memorized. I can just read from my slides, right? But TED is totally different. You need to memorize your talk, period, end of story, because you're not going to have a teleprompter. You're not going to have notes. You're not going to have an outline in front of you. Nada. It's just like you and the camera. Hold on one second. I'm going to pause the share just for a minute to do a time check. We're exactly at 5 p.m. Um, does anybody, before I go on to that, now I'm going to go into what makes a TEDx talk compelling and how to create a really viral one. But does anybody have any questions before I go on?
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
I was just, as you were talking about the TEDx talks and the timeline, looking on the TED site, like, do you end up then, like, how do you pick where you would apply?
Yeah. Well,
Maybe that's a different
yeah,
different topic, but
we're gonna have a whole class on that, but
okay,
But I will tell you just out of the gate, because I'm going to talk about it a little bit in the next half hour as well. There's about four top criteria that I have people use.
okay,
Number one is the timeline because you're wasting your time. If you're looking at events in August, you're wasting your time
right.
because most of them have speakers already. So you're literally just going to go like waste your time looking at events that already have speakers. So don't do it. So your first criteria, I'll just give you the quick rundown and we'll talk about it more in a future class, is going to be timeline. You're going to look at talks that are 3 to 6 months out typically. So we're in June. So you're not going to want to look at any talks happening before September. But you could look at talks happening September, October, November, December, right? If you want to land one in 2025. They also have them in 2026 now. So you could look at January, February, March, whatever. That's number one. Number one criteria is timeline. Look 3 to 6 months out. Number two criteria is geography because it is just the way it goes. There are independently organized TEDx events around the globe, right? But if you find a TEDx event in your hometown, or like where you live currently, they're much more likely to pick you because most stages, this is not true of 100% of TEDx events. They're all independently organized. They're all a little bit different. This is one of the things that my clients find frustrating. I do too, but it's just how it works. There's no one TEDx application. There's no one way they organize it. There's no one, like, every organizing team is different and does it independently. Some people just make you fill out 5 simple questions. Some people make you fill out 40 questions that have character limits and send them a 3-minute video and like send them an outline and send them a talk and rehearse with them for 3 months, right? So some people are totally hands off, some people are totally hands on. And I do not control that part of the process. It's totally independently organized. So, but the majority of TEDx organizers want to have at least some speakers who are local. Okay. So if you apply, if you can find a TEDx stage in your local city, amazing. In your local state, also awesome, right? Like you want to apply for at least a few stages where that you have a geographic connection because they will always want to feature some local speakers. So it means you go to the top of the pile, right? And that goes for universities. Any university where you graduated from undergrad, graduate, PhD, any degree that you have, if that university has a TEDx event, you want to apply, right? Because they will always give preference to alums, right? Some universities will allow other people to apply to the stage who are not alumni, but they are always going to give preference to an alum. So one of my TEDx clients landed 2 TEDx talks last year, one where she got her master's, one where she got her PhD, right? So she applied to both stages, got accepted to both stages. She now wants to go back and do the stage where she did her undergrad and she'll land it. Right now she knows how to land a TEDx talk. So, and she ended up turning one of her TEDx talks into a book. They were 2 totally independent topics because that's the other thing. If you give multiple TEDx talks, I've given 2, they have to be on completely different topics. TEDx will not allow you to give the same TEDx talk twice. If you try to, they'll just take your talks down. They will take your talk down. Like I have seen it happen. They will take your talk down if you disobey their rules. If you go over the time limit, if you do not use peer-reviewed research that is like reputable research from a reputable source in a peer-reviewed published journal, peer-reviewed study in a published journal, if you use like pseudoscience, if your references are from Wikipedia, not always, but the TED organization will sometimes literally take those talks down, right? If you use sort of like you have to follow their rules. Um, and like I know somebody who also he's a TEDx coach. I don't know him personally. I know of him. There's a TEDx coach who like as a TEDx coach, I have to follow certain rules in the way that I promote my coaching and all this stuff. And I have to, you know, put certain language into my contracts and all of that. And if I don't follow the TEDx IP rules as a coach, they can remove my TEDx talks. So this happened to this other coach who makes millions doing this, but he kept violating their IP agreements. So they just took down his talks. So he's no longer technically a TED. He's no longer, nobody can find his talk. It doesn't exist anymore, you know? So, anyways, but the top criteria for when you apply, number one is timeline, look typically 3 to 6 months out. Number two is geography. You can filter the TEDx calendar by state, so you can filter it by state or region. You can go back to your own university and see if they have an event. Beyond that, the third criteria is typically theme. Not every independently organized TEDx event has a theme, but the ones like my second event that I did at TEDx Oneonta had the theme transformation, and my talk was about transformation. So I was like a perfect match. So if you can find talks that thematically are in alignment with your talk topic, you're going to again bump yourself up to the top of the pile of the applications. So there's more criteria than that, but those are kind of the top ones. And like I said, we'll do a whole class on this too.
Yeah.
But just
Great.
so you know, because yeah, if you look at the calendar today, if you go to TED.com, for anybody who hasn't done it yet, let me just address that because you can start looking at this for fun, but I'll show you. If you go to TED.com, I'm gonna stop. I'm not sharing anymore anyway. So go to TED.com. I'll pull this up. And then there's a tab at the top that says attend. And you click on that and you go down to TEDx events. And then there's this like global calendar of TEDx events. But if you scan it, literally today, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 TEDx events still happening today around the world, right? In Turkey, in Nigeria, in the United Arab Emirates. So I mean, these are literally happening all the time around the world. Let me stop the share again for a second because I'm going to drop that link into the chat. But so you can start just for fun checking out the calendar. But and let me go back to it and share it again for 1 second because I can just show you this. When you go to the calendar, TEDx event listing. Okay. So I can go up here and I can say, tell me what events are happening in Michigan. And there's a little box where it says explore TEDx events. There's a filter. So I put in Michigan. So here you go. We have 8 results in Michigan. So, and there's an event June. It's going to be too late, but you could attend an event in June. Then there's a September event, TEDx Chapel Women. There's a October 8th event, October 30th event in Detroit. And then there are multiple next year, right? So you can that quickly just go find all the events in Michigan. Then the challenging part, and we'll talk about this more in future classes, if you click through on the event, so it shows me TEDx Detroit, it shows me the organizer is Charlie Warlberg. Okay. And if you click through to the organizer's profile, it tells you more about Charlie, and he's organized a lot of TEDx events. This is actually a good example. Often when you click through to the organizer, there's no link to the actual TEDx event. So people get really frustrated by this. They think that like you finding the link on the TED website means that you're all set, you have the speaker application. It does not mean that. All you know is that it's on the calendar. They have been approved by TEDx and they have a license. This organizer did a better job than probably 90% of organizers because he filled out his entire profile. Not everybody does that. And then he filled out all the events he's organized. He's obviously organized a ton of events. This is probably a really well-run event, right? He's done this a lot. And he actually gives you a link to TEDx Detroit. Most organizers don't do that on their profile, believe it or not. So you have to go search for it. You have to Google, you have to search for it. They're all independently organized. Some of the organizers are terrible at making websites and doing SEO. So you have to dig for the goddamn application. It's so frustrating to people. They're like, where is the application? And you might have to spend 3 hours diving, doing research, write a LinkedIn email to the organizer to be like, hi, is your speaker application open? It's very frustrating to people. I have zero control over this part of the process, but some organizers are just not great at the SEO piece, you know? But he actually linked to TEDx Detroit. Go ahead.
Quick question. There is one that's like actually really close to me. It's the Interlochen one, but it says youth underneath it. So like there's like standard youth,
Yep.
like
Yep.
women, university. Like what does that mean?
So what that means is if it's a youth event, it's going to mean they're looking for probably one of two kinds of talks. One is that a lot of youth events feature youth. So like
Mhm.
my 16-year-old niece gave her first TEDx talk like this spring. She actually did it on a main stage, like the and not the main TED stage, but she did it on like a regular TEDx stage. But she had also applied to a youth event, but she got accepted first to the main stage. So she just gave this amazing TEDx talk. My 16-year-old niece, she's like incredible.
That's
Um,
amazing.
it is amazing. I'll drop it in the chat for everybody because Lumen is amazing. But her talk was on what if the villains in our lives could be heroes too. Like she's this incredibly mature young woman. And I had to help her mom, my sister, leave an abusive man. So she has a father who's a toxic narcissist.
Mm,
But she gave this incredibly beautiful and complex talk about what if the villains in our lives could be heroes too, without ever mentioning her dad. But like we all know, anyways. So but the youth events typically either feature teens or college students, or you can talk about something related to youth. so
got
so
it.
so that's the thing. You if you're like, my topic can be tailored to be something that is focused on youth and education, great, then that might be a good stage for you. Otherwise it's not the right stage for you.
Got it.
Yeah. And TEDx women events typically will want topics that are related to women's empowerment, and they'll only feature women speakers. TEDx university events um, will sometimes feature people who did not go to that university, but they sometimes only want people from that university. It depends. They'll tell you. And then a standard TEDx event, anybody can apply generally.
Got it.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah. The only other one to know about, I don't think it relates to anybody in this room currently, but occasionally you'll see an event called TEDx Countdown. For TEDx Countdown, they only want speakers who are focused on solutions for climate change. That's it. Environmental scientists, researchers, you will not get accepted to a TEDx Countdown event unless you have a solution for climate change. So that's that. But this one actually is a good example where this organizer, and I'll drop this in the chat too for TEDx Detroit. This is happening in October, and they actually do have their webpage up. Coming soon. It doesn't look like they're accepting speakers yet. Sponsorship info. Oh, no, speak. Oh, yes. Oh, no, it says applications are closed. Unless they reopen, because maybe they'll reopen them, because it says apply before August 4th. It's not August 4th, but maybe they just haven't opened it yet. So in any event, I will drop this in the chat. But that's a really good question. There are different types of TEDx events, but you can apply to most of them. Okay, so any other questions before I dive back in? I just want to get us through our content before 5:30. Everybody good? And my computer's battery's low, so I'm going to plug in. Okay. All right. So let me jump back in. Okay. Now, while I have my laptop plugged in, for some reason today it's been making this super annoying noise periodically. So I don't know why. So just ignore it if my computer goes bloop like that. something about, I think my charger is starting to die, like the little cord on it is kind of frayed. So I think it goes in and out of charging and it makes this noise. So I apologize for that. What makes a TEDx talk unique? I want to spend a little bit more time on that. So your one idea we're spreading, we'll have a whole class on how to refine your idea we're spreading. So you don't need to worry about it too much right now, but that'll be our class next week. But sometimes we know a topic so well inside and out that we can't imagine that it's going to be the thing that's going to change the world, right? But just because we know it well inside and out and it's our expertise doesn't mean it isn't useful to other people. But what really is helpful is that, on the TEDx stage, a lot of times when you're doing like a workforce training or something like that, you might be presenting, three key principles or ideas or tactics or strategies. A lot of people use the rule of three in their talks. We use it in TEDx talks as well. Like the human brain often cannot like memorize and contain more than three things at once. So if you give people 20 action steps, they're never going to do it, right? You have to give people 1 to 3 simple calls to action because they're just going to get overwhelmed otherwise. And people get decision fatigue because we're making like thousands of decisions all the time. What are we going to eat? What are we going to wear? Blah, so anyways, the thing that makes TEDx really unique is it is just about one central idea we're spreading that you want to share with the world. And that's what's going to make your talk compelling is we're going to help you really refine it to one key idea. And if people walk away from your talk and they implement your call to action, you're going to have ideally 1 to 3, either 1, 2, or 3 calls to action by the end of your talk that anybody can do that are straightforward and simple, that can change the world. And like that is how we change the world, one idea at a time, right? Through TEDx. So Sir Ken Robinson has one of the most viral TEDx talks on creativity. His has 42,000 views, I think. This is just a nice little diagram that's kind of like an ikigai kind of thing of like this where there's a Japanese principle. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but it's IKAGAI, where it's kind of the intersection of where your joy meets what the world needs and like what you can get paid for, right? And that's where you find your purposeful work. But this is like your TEDx topic is the intersection of what do you know? What are you an expert in? What do you care about and are most passionate about? And what does the world need to hear, right? So like when I did my second TEDx talk on how to cultivate calm in the midst of chaos, we were just coming out of COVID-19 lockdowns. The whole world was topsy-turvy. There were supply chain issues, there were transportation issues, like everything was expensive, everything was confusing. 1 million Americans died because we had like a totally incompetent, person at the realm, Donald Trump in 2020. And so like or 2021 when we were sort of really going into the worst of it too. Anyways, this I felt like what the world needed at the time was simple tips and tools to get back to a space of inner peace no matter what was happening externally in the world so that you're in a better place to make a decision from a calm place, not from panic. And so to act from calm and not from panic. So that was why I chose that topic. And it really has taken off, because it did feel like that's what the world needed at the moment. And we'll talk more about that next week. How do you find your idea we're spreading? Why are my slides not advancing? Come on, Zoom, you can do it. There we go. So there's an official TEDx speakers guide. I'm going to email this to everyone with the replay by tomorrow. So basically, once you land the TEDx stage, usually your organizer will send you the official TEDx speaker guide, but it's free and it's online and it's like just saved in the back of their website. So I always send it to my clients in advance of landing a TEDx talk because I feel like it's actually more useful for you to know in advance exactly what they're looking for, right? So they say when you're developing an idea, these are 3 good questions to ask yourself. When you're asking, is my idea new? Like you have to keep in mind, like, are there really any new ideas under the sun? Like probably not very many, but for the most part, what you're doing is giving your own spinner perspective on an idea that like you might pick a TEDx topic where 10 other people have given a talk on something similar, right? In the history of TEDx, but it's going to be your own unique story, your own unique spin on it, and you want to pitch to the organizers why your talk is unique, right? Is it interesting? So often when we are entrepreneurs, we're taught to figure out who is our ideal client avatar. We know who we're pitching everything to. We know who we're selling to, right? But when you're giving a TEDx talk, you're trying to make it broader, like more mass media appeal, because in the room at your TEDx event, there could be high school students, there could be retired military generals, there could be like everything in between, right? And like when people are watching it around the world, you want to think about how will this appeal to both men and women and non-binary people? How will this appeal to young and old? How will this appeal to progressives and conservatives, right? I mean, like people on a different end of the political spectrum. So, like, being able to think about what would be interesting as a general topic to humanity, right? We're not trying to niche down here. And then is it factual and realistic? Is it based on real science that you can back up? You don't have to include science in your talk. Some talks are just story based. That's totally fine. But if you include research, it has to be research that your TEDx organizers can go check. You need to have citations. They need to be able to fact check it. They need to be able to see that it came from a reputable source, like a peer-reviewed study in a journal that is recognized publicly. Wikipedia doesn't count. A YouTube video by some conspiracy theorist is not going to count. So TEDx Speaker's Guide, it says it specifically. Make sure your ideas are backed by data and peer-reviewed. If you're presenting a call to action, make sure it can be executed by members of the audience. So I always like to give the example, say you were giving a TEDx talk on how to overcome your fear and live your dreams, some variety on that, right? And you said to the audience members, like me, Lisa Powell Graham, I did this. In order to overcome my fear of heights and to give myself courage to take on some new challenges, I went skydiving. Like that is a true story, right? So, but like, I would not recommend that as an action step in a TEDx talk. Like if I said, oh, the way to overcome your fears, go skydiving. You know what? Because 98% of the audience will not go skydiving. That's fine. They don't, but I would have to come up with some other way to say, think about whatever you're afraid of. Say it's spiders. And, the next time you have a spider in your house, try to capture it in a cup and put it outside. Whatever. Like some way to like make incremental progress on like whatever your fear is. But if your action step, your call to action is not realistic for most people, it's going to fall flat, right? Because people are going to be like, yeah, that's nice for you, but I'm not skydiving. Um, so basically, these are some questions to ask as you're developing your idea. The best TEDx presentations touch your heart. They're emotional. They teach you something new and they're memorable, right? So they present content in unforgettable ways. Um, this, like I said, I'm literally sending you the speaker's guides. You're going to have all of this. But you want to make your audience care. So you typically start with either a story. A lot of people start with a story hook. You walk into this, you start in the middle of a story to hook people because they want to know what happened next, right? Or you can start with a startling statistic. Did you know that, and in my talk in 2022 about how to cultivate calm in the midst of chaos, I pretty quickly within the first 30 seconds, I shared a statistic about, at the time, I think it was something like, 89% of Americans felt like, overwhelmed by, just all of these converging challenges. Oh, I'm just now seeing Deb's note too. TEDx youth event, Guilderland High School, September 27th. No, I would go for it, Deb. I would definitely apply to that. Because you're within the 3 month, it's like about the 3 month mark. We could prep you. You'd have 4 months. So I would apply. You and I can talk about that separately. Yeah. But for Deb, I would apply to that event. Um, it's actually great because as somebody who's an LGBTQIA ally who became a stronger ally because of your own child, and with your role in the world currently, that would be a fantastic one for you to apply to, and we could land you that stage, I bet. So I would go for it. Um,
Yay!
Yay. Yes. So now we have a goal. I think that's a great one. Yeah, we'll work on it. Um,
Perfect. Thanks.
Yes, sure, no problem. So this is just I'm gonna send you the speaker's guide. You're gonna have access to all of this. Um, you know, your primary goal of your talk with TEDx is to communicate an idea effectively. Yes, you tell stories, yes, you evoke emotions, but those are tools. What we're trying to do is convey an idea effectively. Um, your structure should be invisible to the audience. So a lot of times when you give a workforce training, say that I'm going to talk to an organization about, mindfulness tools and meditation tools that you can use to manage stress in the workplace, create more wellness, and joy in your workplace, whatever, right? Then I might at the beginning of the talk say, today we're going to cover these 3 tools. And I list them. And then we walk through the 3 tools. And at the end, I say, today we covered these 3 tools. And like you reiterate it, right? So those are like pedagogical things. Like when you're trying to teach people, you often repeat information and you emphasize very clearly what you're going to be learning. That is not the case with TEDx. You want your structure to be invisible to the audience. It's not a typical talk. You're really telling a story. It's a transformational journey. You're taking the audience on a journey. So we'll talk about how to do that. So you don't need to worry about it right now. But yes, that is, hold on. And yeah, you're going to start, we're going to work on story development during this class, during the course of the summer camp. So, and I might bring in an extra expert about that. So that'll be a piece we'll work on. Um, so this is something else we'll work on later as well, that we'll work on your call to action steps you're going to give people to take after listening to your talk that can transform their lives. So we'll talk about that. This was something that was really kind of a plot twist that really helped me with my second TEDx talk. I think when we're on a stage, like if you're telling your life story on a stage and you're like, here's how I overcame post-traumatic stress disorder and created the life of my dreams, right? Like that's my personal life story. So, but like, you might think I'm kind of the hero of my talk, or my healers and mentors I studied with are the hero of my talk. No, the plot twist that'll make your TEDx talk like rock everybody's life is that your audience is the hero of your TEDx talk. By the end of your talk, you want your audience to feel completely empowered to take action to change things in the world. You want them to feel like what was possible for you could be possible for them. You want them to feel like it's their turn to go be the superhero. And if you watch my second TEDx talk, How to Cultivate Calm in the Midst of Chaos, at the end of it, and the video did not capture this, which I'm kind of mad about, the TEDx video staff didn't capture it. But at the very end of the video, I was wearing this top that had like big broad sleeves that kind of turned into wings. Like if you hold your arms out, they looked like wings. It was these big kind of bell-shaped sleeves. And at the end of the talk, I literally talk about how everybody in the audience is the superhero we've been waiting for. We're the ones who have to make the change. And I put my arms up and it like made like, it looked like a cape. It looked like I was wearing a red cape. And like people in the audience caught it that I did that. Like my friends came up to me afterwards and they were like, at the end, when you talked about superheroes and you raised your arms and it looked like a red cape, that was amazing. But like they literally did not capture it. The videographer didn't capture it. But by the end of my talk, I flipped everything to make the audience the superhero. So you can go watch mine if you want to see what I'm talking about. So these are just more tips from the guide. I'll send you that. And as you're kind of like visualizing yourself, I meditate for half an hour in the mornings. I visualize achieving my goals. And like when I was visualizing being on the TEDx stage, and when you do that, know that it's a very friendly audience. People who come to TEDx are really excited about learning. They're happy to be in the room. They're excited to listen to you. They're not judging you. They're there to cheer you on. So if you stumble, they're cheering you on. They're not picking you apart, right? It's the friendliest audience I've ever spoken to. I like to think your ancestors are in the room, your spirit guides are in the room, everybody's kind of cheering you on. So it's actually a really friendly audience. So that's just a good thing to know. So a lot of this we're going to cover in the coming weeks. So this is just kind of a quick overview, but we talked a little bit today about searching the TED website for TEDx events. You're typically going to look for events in your region. You're typically going to look for events that are 3 to 6 months out from now. Those are the first 2 criteria. So I say that here, you look for your region, you look for the next you can look for the next 3 months. I wouldn't look sooner than 3 months, but some people would rather do a talk 6 to 12 months from now so they have more time to prepare. But like in Deb's case, there's an event coming up September 27th that would be a great match for her. So like we can definitely, like Deb, you and I could get your talk done in the next month. So you have 3 months to rehearse. So you'll have time. You want to give yourself at least 3 months to prepare, right? Because you need time to rehearse, you need time to draft your talk and edit your talk. If there are talks happening that have a theme that's aligned with what you want to talk about, those are good ones to apply to. Once you've selected events, you want to review the applications and start on them as early as possible. A lot of applications require you to share your idea worth spreading, give a talk title, give a brief bio, give a synopsis of your talk, and they often want you to make a 1 to 3 minute video describing your talk. So they want to know what you're going to be talking about and they want to know your energy as a speaker. So the video, you want to give yourself plenty of time. Like I've only applied to 4 TEDx events in my life and I got accepted to 2. So like my odds are better than most people's odds. But the 2 that I got rejected from, I didn't give myself enough time to do the video well. I kind of rushed the video. I did it the last minute, the day it was due, and I got rejected. The 2 times I actually spent time making a good video and like recording it several times until I was happy with it, I got accepted. So like the video is going to be the most important part of your application. Um, it's just a test. I have a lot of testimonials from my clients. That was just one of those. This is my contact information. So I'm going to send everybody this replay. I'm going to send everybody the TEDx speaker guide. I'm going to send everybody the TEDx website if you want to start playing around and looking at events. Between now and next week, that's really the homework, is just to like check out the TEDx calendar, start looking for events. And for fun, if you want, you can watch the TEDx talks I recommended today, or you can go find your own. I think like if you really want to be on this stage, I really highly recommend you start watching at least a couple new talks a month. You can go to the TEDx YouTube station. You can like look for talks that are in alignment with your topical area. You can search on the TEDx YouTube station for talks that are like related to what you want to talk about. And I know we're right at 5:31. So any event. Any questions before we wrap? Or are you good? Do you have any questions, Aaron? I think Aaron and Deb are still here and other people had to hop off, but any questions?
The only question I have is I see that the last several years, Michigan State University has done a TED by MSU.
Yes.
It's not currently listed for 2026. It's usually in the spring. It looks like March or April. Do you think do you think that it would be normal that they might not yet even have that posted?
That's probably
Or,
normal it's probably normal that it's not posted yet. So you know what you
okay.
could do? You could look at the 2025 event. So you could
Hmm.
try to do some research on the 2025 event and figure out who the organizers were.
Yep.
Often at universities, the organizers switch over more
Yeah.
frequently. The organizers are often students. So
Yes.
it might be a different organizer next year. But if they did one in April, say they did one, whatever, March, April, May 2025, and you can talk to the organizer of that event, you could say, I'm interested in applying for your event in 2026. Will you be the organizer for that event? Or are you passing the baton to another organizer?
Mhm.
I would love to be on the email list when speaker applications, go
Yeah.
live or whatever, something like
Okay.
that. So I would definitely look up the current organizer. Oftentimes too, say that there's an event, say you find an event happening in July or August. It's too late to apply, but you can go to the event. You can buy a ticket and you can go
Right.
as an attendee. And then if you go as a TEDx attendee, I really highly recommend go meet the organizers. Go look in the program, figure out who the organizers are. At the end of the event, go introduce yourself, say thank you for a great event, tell them what you loved, whatever, and tell them that you're applying to TEDx events. Are you doing this again next year? How do I apply? You know what I mean? Like, because anytime it's like with anything in life,
Right.
anytime you're applying to a corporation and you know somebody, it helps.
Yeah.
Anytime so if there's an event happening in July or August and it's too late to speak, But you go and you meet the organizers, you ask if they're hosting it next year. Oh, yes, we are. We're hosting it next June. Awesome. Are your speaker applications live yet? No, they're not. Great. How do I get on the list for when your speaker applications open? Like the more you can differentiate yourself in the pile, the more you're going to move up to that top 10% of applications and not be in the 95% that get rejected, right?
Great. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. So I will send everybody everything within 24 hours. The replay, the speaker guide, the TEDx calendar, and just some fun things to do this coming week. But I had fun teaching, so I hope we all had fun hanging out and learning. But like I'm a super duper TEDx nerd, so this stuff is like super fun for me. And it just really like 100% of my private clients, people hire me both for groups and private. 100% of my private clients have landed stages. Not yet 100% of my group, only because sometimes people take my group classes and then they wait and they apply 2 years later. You know what I mean? They don't always do it right away. But 100% of my private clients have landed a stage, and like I'm very confident that if you like follow the protocol I give, you will land a stage.
Lisa, is it worth it given the short time frame for me to literally just blat out everything I would think about, including in the talk, onto a document, and then we can work on it later?
Yeah. Drop it all into a document and send it to me, and you and I can set up a Zoom. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, because I think you should definitely apply to that one. So
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, thank you. I was just wanting to make sure I had enough time. Yep.
yeah, no, you'll be okay. We can make it work, but send me a document and then we'll schedule a Zoom. I might be in Troy next week. So if I'm in Troy next week, we could meet next
Oh,
week. Mhm.
oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
hell yeah. And if not, I'll just have to go to Ithaca and go hiking at Watkins.
listen, I would love to go to Watkins Glen. Come visit me in Ithaca anytime. Ithaca's beautiful. Ithaca, New York is beautiful. Yes, and bring
Oh,
it.
and now I have a travel trailer. I said I spoke that into being.
Wow.
I want to take, but I don't want to sleep on the ground. So my boyfriend bought us a used one, and the whack job called it Doodlebug. What a riot!
Oh my God, I
It's
love
like one of
it.
those little teardrop ones. It's so cute.
I
You'll get
love
don't
it.
laugh at me. I
I
called it Doodlebug. I'm like,
I
oh my
love it.
god.
I love it. Come
Yeah.
visit. Come visit anytime.
All
Yeah.
right, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yay.
And who is it? Aaron, who's coming to New York?
Yeah, it's me. I'm coming to Saratoga Springs. I'll be there all next week and through the
Oh,
weekend.
when
Yeah.
are you coming in?
I come in on Saturday and then
Okay.
I leave the following Sunday.
Maybe the three of us could get together in Troy, New York next week.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be so cool.
Because you're
totally.
you're you're just half an hour. You'll be half an hour from us, Erin.
Yeah, totally. That's
It's,
totally possible.
I will be in Boston Spa, which is very close to
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
Or
Yes.
maybe we can all meet in Boston Spa. I mean, I'll go to
Monday,
Saratoga.
Tuesday, and Wednesday because Croatia, and I'm helping my son with my grandbaby, so I get to have so much fun.
Aw, maybe let's just tentatively, and we can all figure it out. I'll email you both separately. But next Wednesdays are my TEDx day. I only do TEDx clients on Wednesdays. But maybe like next Wednesday dinner time, if we're all free, we could plan to do like dinner in Boston Spa or dinner in Saratoga or something like that. And
Yes.
and then I could just plan to be, I have to be in Troy at some point next week, so I could just plan to be there Wednesday evening, the 25th. If you think that works, let's all just kind of tentatively hold it for like next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. or ish, that's somewhere around there.
That should
Sounds
work
great.
for me. I don't know
Okay.
about you, Aaron, but that would be great. Oh, that'd
Okay.
be so much fun.
Let's do that. Let's do that. So I'll email you both. I have a lot of favorite restaurants in Saratoga. I sometimes avoid Saratoga during track season just because it's so crowded,
Oh
but it's
no.
fun.
It's
But
not
it's
track
super
season
fun.
yet.
Oh, it's not track season
It's
yet.
also
Okay,
not
good.
track season yet.
Oh, good. Okay. No, it's super fun, but it's just like, but it's not track season yet. So maybe we do dinner next Wednesday night at 7 p.m. in Saratoga, and I'll suggest I'm vegetarian, so as long as they have vegetarian food, I
Yeah,
can eat most places. So
perfect.
yeah, awesome.
Awesome. Well,
Yay.
see, look at how wonderful all this is.
I know.
Yay!
And look, we're like the last three on the Zoom, and like here we are making dinner plans. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much,
Such
Lisa.
a
Looking
You're
forward
riot.
to seeing you
welcome.
both.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you
okay.
so much. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. See you
Bye.
next week. Bye. Oh,